Good evening, boys and girls and Stingray parents. This evening we're going to be working with one-step equations again, but our operators are going to be multiplication and division. Same concept as our last mini lesson, but our operators are different. I think you'll find these to be pretty simple. Let's take a look and let's give them a try. Well, let's get started, boys and girls. Here we have two equations that we need to solve. They're one-step equations. They are multiplication and division. And remember, with equations, an equation is a true mathematical statement. And what's true about it? What is on the left is equal to what is on the right. What the value or the quantity that's on the left side is the same that's on the right, and the same with this division problem. Believe it or not, the quantity of this t divided by 3 is equal to 8. 5 times x has to be equal to 45. Well, we have to make this true. So when we solve for the equation, what we're doing is we're trying to figure out what value for the variable will make this statement true, will make this equality. So we want to think of our equation as a balance beam, and our little equal sign here, let's think of here's the pivot point, and whatever quantity or value we have on the right, we must also have on the left. Well, how do we accomplish that? Well, we want to isolate this variable. We want the variable to be all by itself on one side of the equation, while all the numeric information is on the other side. If we want to isolate this x, the problem is we have a 5 over here. And what is this? What's the relationship? What operations going on between the 5 and the x? Well, this is 5x means 5 times x. Well, what's the opposite of multiplication? Well, the opposite of multiplication is division, correct? So if we want to undo 5 times x, the opposite, or how we would undo that, is we would divide it by 5. Okay, so we want to get rid of this 5. It's not just 5, it's 5 times x. We want to get rid of this 5 times. We need to divide it by 5. And remember, what we do to one side of the equation, we must do to the other. What we do to the left, we must do to the right. So we also have to divide this side by 5. And what happens? Well, this undoes the 5 times, and we're left with just x. Okay, so we accomplished that. We have x in isolation all by itself. And then 45 divided by 5 is 9. So x is equal to 9. And let's double check. Let's check our work. What we're going to do is we're going to evaluate our original equation. So we take 5 times x. We substitute x with 9. 5 times 9, and sure enough, we know our multiplication facts, at least we should. 5 times 9 is 45. So this is the answer, or the solution to the equation. We solved for x. Now over here we have division. We have t divided by 3 is equal to 8. Now this seems like an odd combination, but once again, we need to solve this equation by isolating the variable t. How do we get t all by itself? Well, right now it's being divided by 3. Well, what's the opposite class of division? It's multiplication. So, and more specifically, if we're dividing this by 3, and we want to undo this divide by 3, we need to multiply by 3. So we're going to multiply this by 3. And what we do to one side of the equation, we must do to the other. So we're also going to multiply this side by 3. We've got to keep things balanced. Okay, and when we multiply t divided by 3 times 3, that cancels out the 3's. And we have t all by itself. We transfer it down here. And t is going to be equal to 3 times 8, which is 24. Okay, and let's check our work. So we go back to our original equation, and we want to evaluate it. So we take t, which is 24. We substitute t with 24 divided by 3, and then is that equal to 8? Sure is. 24 divided by 3 is 8. 8 is equal to 8, and just like over here. 45 is equal to 45. Boys and girls, that's how we solve one-step multiplication and division equations and inequalities. And remember, I don't have time right now to solve an inequality, but you treat an inequality just like an equation. But remember, your final answer, after you're done solving for it, since you have an inequality sign, your answer for that variable is a range of answers, okay? It's a range, so there's more than one possible value that you could have for your variable, but your inequality sign will set that range. And we'll work on inequalities later, and we'll practice those.